You're listening to Southeast Radio's Business Matters, with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances. More information at wexfordinsurance.com.
I'm joined now by Brendan Stamp from Guardian Fire based in New Ross. Brendan, tell me a bit about Guardian Fire. What do you do?
Well, Guardian Fire was set up in 2004 by myself and my sister Jackie Carty to provide fire service facilities to the South East in regards to the provision of fire alarm systems and fire extinguisher systems.
And where did the idea originate from?
Well, Karl, that's a good question. I was based in Dublin between the mid-90s, 1995 to 2003, and I was working for a company up there, and I was often sent down to Wexford to service systems in the South East. At that stage I had identified that basically there could be a market in the South East, and I had approached the company I was working for about building on what we had in the South East and creating more business in the area. And at that stage they were heavily focused in the Dublin area, and that just wasn't going to happen. So I started looking at the South East area, and I realised that there definitely was a market there for a professional fire service company, and hence I set up Guardian Fire and Security.
So once you set it up, you had the challenge of identifying and developing a client base. I know that you focused on two markets, the distribution market and also on the service market. Tell me firstly about the distribution market and what you did to get that off the ground.
Well, Karl, we were very lucky in regards to the distribution market in that we identified a solid supplier in the control panel market called Control Equipment, and we worked alongside them to build up the system they were using and supply it to the likes of other fire alarm companies throughout the country and to more local ones as well. And then we basically built on that as well on the install market.
So you got the distribution rights for Control Equipment. What did you do next?
Well, basically we spent the next couple of months and years knocking on doors and approaching electricians, electrical contractors, end users, and basically building relationships with them and advising them the types of systems they should be looking at, how they should install them, and why they require these systems.
I'm sure, Brendan, that all of those electricians were dealing with other fire alarm companies at the time and were being provided with other fire alarm equipment. What challenges did you run into when dealing with them?
I suppose the first challenge is that a lot of people don't like change. They're not sure in regards to when they're moving companies whether it's a right decision or a bad or a wrong decision. We had the experience, we had the knowledge in regards to fire safety systems, and we used that and we educated the people we worked alongside, and we helped them in regards to installing the systems in a correct manner and in a manner that the end user could be confident in what they have and that they weren't going to get a load of false alarms on the system in the future.
So you used your industry experience that you had garnered from the company you worked with in Dublin to help overcome that challenge?
Oh yes, definitely. I was very lucky in regards to the experience I had in Dublin in regards to working across a wide range of systems and a wide range of sites. I worked on the smallest local shop to large multinational systems, and it was an absolutely fantastic and exciting time for myself.
I know that the other side of the business that you looked at developing was the service end. How did you go about that?
Well, the service end, again, it was tough to break into that market in that you had a lot of established companies in the South East, and we approached companies and we were lucky in regards to getting in with a number of companies and building it from there, and a lot of it came from recommendations from one company to another and just generally hard work and putting our feet on the ground and calling out to people.
But again, I would put the same point to you that, when you would have approached these companies across Wexford with a view to providing service contracts, there was incumbent players in there that they would have had existing contracts with. What was your uniqueness that gave you the opportunity to take over the running of those contracts?
I suppose it was our knowledge and experience, and that we specifically focused on the fire safety industry. That's what we were. We were experts in the fire safety field. And we focused on that and just made people aware of what we could provide to them in that area.
Typically, who are your clients?
Our clients could be anything from multinationals to schools to hotel and leisure complexes, retail, supermarket, commercial and industrial.
I know, Brendan, that it's a mandatory requirement under the building regulations for all new commercial buildings to have a fire alarm system in place. But how is that enforced?
Well, Karl, there's several ways. If it's a new building, and it's applying for a fire certificate, then within the fire certificate you must state that the type of fire alarm system installed, whether in regard to coverage of the building, and in regards to then new modifications to buildings, depending on the level of modification, you might also require a fire safety certificate, and within that should also include the level of fire alarm system that's brought throughout the building.
I know of a specific case, and our listeners are surely aware of this, in relation to Priory Hall in Dublin, where that system seemed to have failed. What has been done since then to make sure that the system has become more rigorous?
I think people have become more aware of fire alarm systems and what issues are out there with them. In regards to Priory Hall, where I can't comment exactly on it, and there seems to be a number of issues with that building. It's down really to the competency of the individual and the companies carrying out the work in these instances, that they are correct under the new regulations that were issued in 2009. It's illegal to issue a certificate that is not compliant in regards to issuing a certificate whereby the building does not comply with the regulations, and we can actually be prosecuted as an issuing company if that certificate is wrong.
You're out there every day servicing these systems across County Wexford. From your experience, what percentage of businesses do not have a maintenance agreement in place?
I suppose with the way the country has gone over the last couple of years, you can understand businesses cutting back on their outgoings. We would probably note that there would be roughly in the area of about 30% that might not have valid service contracts in place at the moment.
And what risks does that provide to consumers?
Well, they run several risks in regards to not having their system maintained correctly. The first would be that if they should have a fire in their premises and it's not been serviced or maintained correctly, that their insurance is more than likely null and void and won't pay out. The other is obviously the danger to the public and to staff. And thirdly, that basically if they do have a fire, the damage to their reputation and the cost of rebuilding.
And in relation to the future for Guardian Fire, how does it look?
Well, the future looks bright, Karl. I'm absolutely loving what I do. I enjoy the business I'm in, and I have fantastic staff behind me, and with the right staff you can do absolutely anything. We're planning on growing our fire alarm division, we're planning on growing our fire extinguisher section, and we're also planning on investing in an online shop and I suppose progressing from there.
I know that the contracting of services in your own area is an unregulated sector. Would you like to see regulation coming into the sector?
Definitely. I think everybody should welcome regulation. It's the only way to weed out those that shouldn't be working in the industry. Our industry is an extremely serious industry. At the end of the day, the systems we provide are there to protect people's lives, and I think it is something that really needs to be treated that way.
On that basis, is there many cowboys operating in the sector?
As with any sector, you'll always have those type of operators within the industry. I suppose it's really up to the user and the end client to familiarise themselves with what their obligations are and where they should be, and that the person supplying the service to them is competent to do so. You wouldn't employ a carpenter to do your plumbing.
The issue there is the fact that most business owners, number one, wouldn't be familiar with fire safety systems, and secondly, wouldn't really know what to go looking for in terms of testing somebody's competency in relation to that. What advice would you give to those business owners?
Well, I'd always advise, no matter who you're employing to do work on your systems, that you check them out. You get recommendations maybe from an existing customer of theirs, but also you check out that they are trained and they are qualified in the area they work in, and that they are competent to do so. It's a huge issue in our industry, basically, whereby competence is the important word.
Brendan, what have you done to innovate your own business over the last 12 months to cope with the challenging times that we're currently in?
Well, Karl, Guardian Fire has looked at our existing customer base and our surrounding areas, and we've identified areas whereby we could sell new products to existing customers and obviously develop new customers along different lines. And to that effect, we introduced a fire extinguisher section in December of 2011, and it's gone from strength to strength. We're providing services to our existing customers and growing our service base based on the extinguisher side of things as well.
And how does the future look for Guardian?
The future looks extremely positive. I have fantastic staff. Without them we'd be lost, and we are expanding our fire extinguisher division in the immediate future, and to go from there, we're planning on expanding our fire alarm side of things.
Do you find that you're picking up any business from the internet?
Well, we launched our website about a year to 2 years ago, and we've continuously been getting new hits, and we found that we've gotten a lot of new business off the website that we mightn't necessarily have gotten previously. We've picked up clients such as Board Goss and other customers who have found us on the internet in regards to the services we provide.
And from a tendering perspective, do you tender for much work, government contracts and that, and what has been your experience if so?
We would tender for a number of contracts, but obviously you're up against the larger multinationals and larger companies, and it's tough in that regard. But in some aspects we would have progressed along those lines. We're now one of only 10 companies that the HSE has approved to provide services to them in the future.
Well, Brendan, look, thank you very much for joining me this morning, and I wish you continued success in the future with Guardian Fire.
You're listening to South East Radio's Business Matters with thanks to Wexford Insurances. Wexford Insurances, #1 for business insurance in County Wexford.